Everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a question that is absolutely essential for anyone looking at mining stocks. We're going to build a tool from the ground up called the leverage multiplier, so you can see exactly how a tiny change in a commodity's price can cause a huge swing in a company's value. Let's get right into it.
So this whole thing starts with a really simple question. On the surface, it seems like it should have a simple answer, but it really doesn't. I like to call it the $1 paradox. I mean, think about it, right? If a company pulls silver out of the ground and sells it, and the price of that silver goes up by $1 an ounce, why doesn't the company's stock also go up by $1 per share? It just feels like it should be a one-for-one thing, but it never is. So, what gives?
Well, the answer, the key to this whole puzzle, is a powerful concept called the leverage multiplier. It's the secret sauce that explains why a small price change in a metal can lead to a totally different change in a stock's value. And today, we're going to build one together, from scratch.
Okay, but before we can build our multiplier, we have to get our heads around one fundamental tool that all the pros use to value a company. It's all about how we look at money over time.
And that tool is called discounted cash flow, or DCF. Look, the core idea is actually super simple. $1 you might get 10 years from now is worth less than $1 in your hand today, right? I mean, there's risk, there's inflation. So DCF is just the method we use to take all of a company's future earnings and discount them to figure out what they're all worth in today's money. This concept is absolutely essential for what we're about to do.
All right, with that idea in our back pocket, we are ready to go. Let's actually build this multiplier for a real-world example, a company called Abra, and see exactly where the numbers come from.
We're going to do this in 4 really clear steps. First, find the new revenue. Second, account for taxes. Third, use our DCF tool to find the value today. And fourth, we translate that into a per-share value. Let's dive in.
So first things first, the logical starting point. Let's figure out how much more money the company actually makes each year from that single $1 price bump.
And the math here is about as straightforward as it gets. This company is projected to produce about 13.4 million ounces of silver equivalent a year. You just multiply that by our $1 price increase, and there you have it, an extra $13.4 million in pre-tax revenue annually.
But as you know, a company never gets to keep all of that. Before that money flows to the company and its investors, the local government always takes its cut. So our next step is to apply the tax rate.
In this case, the mine is in Argentina, where the corporate tax rate is about 25%. So we take our $13.4 million, we subtract that 25% for taxes, and we're left with $10.05 million. Now that is the actual real extra cash the company sees each year.
Okay, here we go. This is the most important part of the whole calculation. That extra $10 million, the company doesn't just get it once, it gets it every single year for the entire life of the mine. So we need to calculate what that entire stream of future payments is worth right now at this very moment. To do that, we use a standard financial formula. It's called the present value of an annuity. Now, I know it might look a little complex, but you should just think of it as a powerful calculator. We're just going to feed in our variables, and it's going to tell us the total present value of all that future cash. This is the engine.
So let's plug in our numbers. C is our annual cash flow. That's the $10.05 million. R is the discount rate. We'll use a pretty standard 5% for precious metals to account for the risk of the investment. And N is the life of the mine, which is 14 years. We run that through the formula, and it tells us that the total value added to this project today from that $1 silver price increase is a whopping $99.48 million.
So, we've just figured out how much value is added to the entire company. But remember our original question? It was all about the value per share. It is time to find our final answer. Okay, this last step is the simplest, but it is where everything finally clicks into place. We just take that total value we calculated, and we spread it out across all of the company's outstanding shares. We take our $99.48 million in total value, and we divide it by the company's 160 million shares. And that gives us our final answer. 62 cents. That's it. A $1 increase in the price of silver adds 62 cents to the value of each and every share. That is the leverage multiplier in action, and that solves our paradox from the very beginning.
So, we did the math. But what does it actually teach us? Why is the number 62 cents and not something else? Let's break down what's really pulling the levers behind the scenes.
You know, the calculation really shows us 2 key drivers that investors have to watch. First, the share count.
A company with fewer shares out there concentrates that value so each share gets a much bigger piece of the pie. And second, the mine life. A longer mine life means more years of that extra cash flow, which dramatically increases the total value. These two variables, they are absolutely critical to understanding a mining company's real potential.
And that brings us to a final thought. We used a standard 5% discount rate. But what if an analyst looks at this and thinks there's more risk? What if they use a higher rate, like 8%? Well, that would make all that future money worth less today, right? Which would shrink the total present value and, in turn, shrink our multiplier. This model is a powerful tool, and now you know exactly how it works.